Unlike everyone else in this room, except my wife, I did not grow up in Habonim. I was not a member of the new left. I was not even a member of the old left. And I grew up in pre-Menachem Begin becoming Prime Minister Beitar, which was roughly akin to the Flat Earth Society. And if Habonim was a niche, Beitar was a niche of a niche. And our normal interaction was to get into fights with HaNeshama. But we had a problem with Habonim because we were the only non-kibbutz movement. Okay, and we believed in all these crazy things. And whenever the smartest guy in Beitar had to debate, they always wound up debating with David. And we kept losing. And what was particularly annoying was David was such a nice guy. And he explained things. And afterwards, you didn't agree with him, but you know what to say. And I remember one case, there was one particular fellow, I mentioned his name, David knows him, who was in Beitar, and he also went to Ramaz with David, he was a few years younger. And we went to the network convention. Now, the only successful time the left ever stopped the convention was at the network convention. And the rate was 15% there. And anyone who got up to speak was booed. Things were thrown at him. And this young fellow, who always had a problem because David always outshined him, got up to speak. And he was talking about how we have to conquer both sides of the Jordan. And you know, he was bombarded with tomatoes and apples and chairs and anything else. And David's righteousness came out. And David got up, pushing his way past all these flying objects. And he says, let him speak. He's a Jew, he has a right to say it. You don't have to agree with him. Let him speak. And this young fellow, who always had a problem with David, turned from this crowd who had been so hostile to him. And he turned slowly and he said, David, you're stifling me. And in Beitar, we never agreed with David Twersky, but we got to love him. And when the idea came up to somehow give honor and to sympathize with that long list of things that poor David, you're a typical Jew, you talk about going through, you become the history of the Jewish people in the last 5 years. That immediately some of the Beitarim were approached and just asked what they could do, because we didn't agree with them then. We don't agree with them now. We do love them. Thank you.
I could get away with not doing this because I'm not convinced that I can do this without breaking down. You know, before I had children, I wasn't an emotional person, and our oldest is Shukran Yetzirah Hayom. So for 23 years, I've been an emotional person. I wanted to say many of the things that Bruce said, and some other people here who talked about David on a personal basis and not on a political level and not on an intellectual level, although for me, he had a profound influence as well on those levels.
haven't had a drink in 35 days.
So there was a day, I don't know whether you remember, for me it was a very significant day, in 1975, July, it was I think July 4th even, when Pinchas Sapir was coming to see us at Gezer. It was also the day,
He was the finance minister.
right, finance minister, it was also the day that Mori
Chairman of the
Salowitz
Jewish Agency.
left Gezer.
Chairman of the Jewish
He
Agency.
was champion, no, at this time. Oh, he was chairman.
יושב-ראש.
People are always arguing.
It didn't matter what position he had had the money, he had the key, and he had his little list in his pocket, and we were out to get put on that list. But it was also the day that Marty Salowitz left Gezer. Marty Salowitz happened to be my husband at the time. And I was the maskira of the kibbutz, and I had to pull myself together to receive Pinchas Sapir. And it was very early in the morning, and I really didn't know how I was going to do this, and in walked David. And held me for a very long time, and a very strong hug. And I don't know whether you remember it, but it stuck with me to this day. And the next very personal thing that happened, many years later, after David left, and during the time when you were there, by the way, for those of you who think it was easy to live with David, it wasn't. You know, we can say many, many nice things about it, but be a kibbutz member with him, there were challenging moments there.
Those who think it was easy to live with David didn't live with him.
Right, David just said. So he and Louis, who was a skier at the time, had a terrible falling out. I don't even remember what.
Virginia going into Klita.
Okay.
The Gang of Four, when they recognized.
Whatever it was not, it was very intense. David left the kibbutz, which was painful on its own, and many years later, Louis and I moved to kibbutz Be'eri. And very shortly after we moved to Be'eri, Louis had a severe accident, and we went through a difficult time. And one day the phone rings, and there he is, David blew us away, and there was the human touch. So what I want to say is, David, you didn't only touch us intellectually, and you didn't only touch us ideologically, and you didn't only touch us philosophically, and you didn't push us ahead only in the demonstrations that we were walking in. You touched us deeply on a personal basis.